So in June of 1966, Ann and I left New Haven in a Volkswagen Beetle and headed south, way south, to Mississippi. I was going to teach political and civil rights and constitutional law to one of the beginning integrated classes at the University of Mississippi, and Ann taught survey of English literature. She had most of the Sugar Bowl team in her class, and her generosity enabled several of the key performers to be on the field that day. Riley Morse's uncle, cousin in Mississippi, nobody counts, was the dean, often rumored to be a communist, but that term was used loosely in those days, who recruited a group of us from Yale Law School to come down there. I've wondered in thinking about this evening what led me to Oxford, Mississippi. There are many sources. The guidance of my older sister, whose devotion to equal justice taught me a lot. After my father passed away when I was 11 and my little sister was 5, Barbara was our moral guidance. I do remember reading James Baldwin. Don, you sent me a nice note after I wrote the piece the day the Baldwin documentary was up for an Academy Award. And what really was striking to me was I was reading Baldwin while working construction on a segregated work site in Charlotte, North Carolina. I read a passage where Baldwin had made his first trip south. Here is a gay black intellectual and writer from Harlem and Paris. He makes his first trip to the South. When the ministers in Charlotte put him on the plane, they say to head into the deep South. They say, "You've seen Charlotte, but Charlotte isn't really the South." And I was very proud for a moment until I turned the page and Baldwin's next sentence was, "Charlotte, by God, was Southern enough for me." But Mississippi beckoned me in part because of what Josh Morse wanted to do as dean, to create an African-American bar in the state of Mississippi, and to make the law school, as it was for a brief shining moment, a site of advocacy for social justice. It was also Baldwin saying that, white people, you need to work on white people. That's where our problem is. The essays I read by Baldwin were reflected in what Chris Rock was later to say. There's no such thing as a race relations problem. We have a problem that white people are crazy. And now they're a little less crazy. And that's progress. But that's where, so I thought that if I went down, I was one of the 2 Southerners in the group that Josh Morse recruited. I think I had the deeper Southern accent at that moment, so I was the one that had to teach political and civil rights. We had some great students. Reuben Anderson went on to a distinguished judicial career in Mississippi. I was told quietly by one of my students that another student in the class was secretly taping my lectures and sending the cassette every night to the White Citizens Council in Jackson, Mississippi. And so for the next class, I got to a point where I said, now, for those of you who are listening down in Jackson, this next point, pay attention, this next point is really important. So I want you to pay close attention. I'll repeat it slowly. Okay? I thought if we were to be one nation, Mississippi had to be a part of that. What makes me especially moved tonight is I know our relationship through George Riley, my deceased O'Melveny partner, has supported the Mississippi Center, which makes this a special honor. But also one of my colleagues there was Mike Trister. Mike had the bestest, goodest connection to social justice of any person I have ever known. And what Mike did after I left to go clerk for Hugo Black, Mike and George Strickler started the North Mississippi Rural Legal Services Project. His courage and the depth of his integrity have always been a beacon for me. Well, I'll close with this. The day I was born, May 15th, 1941, Joe DiMaggio, who had gone hitless the day before, got a single in the second inning in an otherwise meaningless game, except for the fact that he got a hit the next day, and the next day, and day after day throughout the summer of 1941, gripping the whole nation with the greatest streak in the history of all of sports. And when I saw that it began the day I was born, the very day, May 15th, 1941, I reflected back on the fact that on the day I was born and DiMaggio started his streak, no person of color was allowed to play any major league sport. I think nearly a third of Americans said they would support some legal restrictions on Jews. Gay men and women were subject to arrest, prosecution, imprisonment. In that time, though I was clearly by far the poorest kid in my high school class. Because I was white, I had access to the public life of the community. I went to the same public schools as the richest kids in town, and the public librarian helped me find the books I needed to read. I realized that was the special quality of being white, but it was also quality of the openness that we've lost. We've lost the openness that allows people to move throughout our culture. And I worry that a child growing up today would not have the same wonderful opportunities that I had, including the wonderful opportunity to be with you all tonight and to thank you very much for this great honor. I really appreciate it.